I am reading Greene's The Comedians. I'm in the third part of this book now, in chapter 3, Roman 1. This is largely playing in Haiti, and the three comedians are Mr. Smith, who once was a presidential candidate, Mr. Jones, who calls himself Major Jones, and Mr. Brown, who tells this story. They met on a cargo ship. Mr. Jones is in trouble. Chapter 3, Roman 1. Next day I received a note from Martha that Jones had been taken ill and that Dr. Maggiod feared complications. She was nursing him herself and couldn't at the moment leave the embassy. It was a note written for other people to read, a note to leave about, and yet it chilled me. Surely between the lines it would have been possible for her to have indicated some unobtrusive sign of love. The danger was not at all Jones, it was mine as well. But all the comfort of her presence these last days was to belong to him. I pictured her sitting on his bed while he made her laugh as he had made Tintin laugh in the stable at Madame Mère Catherine's. Saturday came and passed, then Sunday began its long course. I was impatient to be finished. On Sunday afternoon, as I was reading on the veranda, Captain Concasseur drove up in a jeep. I envied him the jeep. The driver, who had been assigned to Jones, with the big belly and the gold teeth, sat beside him, wearing a fixed grin like an ape being delivered at the zoo. Concasseur didn't get out. They both stared at me through their black glasses, and I stared at them in return. But they had the advantage. I couldn't see them blink. After a long time, Concasseur said, "I hear you are going to O'Kay's?" "Yes." "Which day?" "Tomorrow, I hope. Your pass is for a short trip only." "I know that. A day to go and a day to return and one night at O'Kay's." "I know. Your business must be very important to take you on such an uncomfortable journey." I told my business at the police station. Philippot is in the mountains near O'Kay, and your man, Joseph, too. You know more than I do, but it's your job. You are alone here now? Yes. No presidential candidate? No Madame Smith? Even your chargé is on leave. You are very isolated here. Are you frightened sometimes at night? I'm getting used to it by now. We'll be watching for you along the road, noting your arrival at each post. You will have to account to us for your time. He said something to his chauffeur and the man laughed. I said to him that he or I will ask you questions if you linger on the road. Just as you questioned Joseph. Yes, exactly in the same way. How is Mr. Jones? Not well at all. He has caught mumps from the ambassador's son. They say there will be a new ambassador soon. The right of asylum ought not to be abused. Major Jones would be well advised to move to the British embassy. Shall I tell him that you will give him a safe conduct? Yes. I'll tell him when he's better. I'm not sure that I've had mumps and I don't want to take any risks. We can still be friends, Monsieur Brown. I feel certain you do not like Major Jones any more than I do. You may be right. Anyway, I'll give him the message. Concasseur backed the jeep into the bougainvillea, breaking branches with the same pleasure as he felt in breaking limbs, turned and drove away. His visit was the only thing that interrupted the monotony of the long Sunday. For once the lights were turned out exactly on time, and the storm poured down the flanks of Kenskov, as though started by a stopwatch. I tried to read in a paperback volume of his short stories, Henry James' Great Good Place, which someone long ago had left behind. I wanted to forget that tomorrow was Monday, but I failed. The wild waters of our horrible times, James had written, and I wondered what temporary break in the long, enviable Victorian peace had so disturbed him. Had his butler given notice? I had built my life around this hotel. It represented stability more profoundly than the God whom the fathers of the Visitation had hoped I would serve. Once it had represented success, better than my travelling art gallery with the phony paintings. It was in a sense a family tomb. I put the Great Good Place down and went upstairs with a lamp. I thought it possible, if things went wrong, that this might be the last night I would spend in the Hotel Trianon. On the stairs, most of the paintings had been sold or returned to the owners. My mother had the wisdom in her early days in Haiti to buy an hypolite, and I had kept it against all American offers through the good and the bad years as an insurance policy. There remained, too, a baignoire that represented the great hurricane hazel of 1954, a grey river in flood, carrying down all kinds of strangely chosen objects, a dead pig floating on its back, a chair, the head of a horse, and a bedstead with floral decorations, while a soldier and a priest prayed on the bank, and the gale beat the trees all one way. On the first landing, there was a picture by Philippe Auguste of a carnival procession, men, women, and children wearing bright masks. Of a morning, when the sunlight shone through the first floor windows, the harsh colours gave an impression of gaiety. The drummers and the trumpeters seemed about to play a lively air. Only when you came closer, you saw how ugly the masks were, and how the maskers surrounded a cadaver in grave clothes. Then the primitive colours went flat, as though the clouds had come down from Kenskov, and the thunder would soon follow. Wherever that picture hung, I thought I would feel Haiti close to me. Baron Samedi would be walking in the nearest graveyard, even though the nearest graveyard was in Tootingbeck. I went up first to the John Barrymore suite, where I looked out of the window. I could see nothing. The city was in darkness, except for a cluster of lights in the palace and a line of lamps which marked the port. I noticed Mr. Smith had left a vegetarian handbook by the bed. I wondered how many he carried with him for distribution. I opened it and found on the flyleaf a message written in his clear, slanting American hand. Dear unknown reader, do not close the book, but read a little before you sleep. There is wisdom here, your unknown friend. I envied him his assurance, yes, and the purity of his intention too. The capital initials gave the same impression as a Gideon Bible. On the floor below was my mother's room. I slept there now, and among the closed guest rooms, which had known no visitors for a long time, was Marcel's room, and the one in which I had lain that first night in Port-au-Prince. I remembered the changing bell, the clanging bell, and the great black figure in the scarlet pyjamas, and the monogram on the pocket, and how he had said to me sadly and apologetically, "She wants me." I went into the two rooms in turn. They contained nothing of that remote past. I had changed the furniture, I had painted the walls, I had even altered their shapes, so that bathrooms could be added. Dust lay thick on the porcelain of the bidet, and the hot water taps ran no longer. I went into my room and sat down on the big bed, which had been my mother's. I almost expected, even after all the intervening years, to find a thread on the pillows of that impossibly Titian hair. But nothing survived of her except what I had deliberately chosen to keep. On a table by the bed was a papier-mâché box in which my mother had stored some improbable jewellery. The jewellery I had sold to Hamet for next to nothing, and the box now contained only that mysterious medal of the resistance and the picture postcard of the ruined citadel, which carried the only writing I had of hers, addressed to me. Nice to see you, if you come this way. And the signature that I had taken for Manon, and the name she had never had the time to explain to me, Comtesse de Duvalier. There was also another message in the box, written in her hand, but not to me. I had found it in Marcel's pocket when I cut him down. I don't know why I preserved it, or why 2 or 3 times I had reread it, for it only deepened my sense of being without parentage. Marcel, I know I'm an old woman, and as you say, a bit of an actress, but please go on pretending. As long as we pretend, we escape. Pretend that I love you like a mistress. Pretend that you love me like a lover. Pretend that I would die for you and that you would die for me. I read the message again now. I thought it movingly phrased. And he had died for her. So perhaps he was no comedian after all. Death is a proof of sincerity. So that was the end of Roman 1. And I'll continue Roman 2 soon. Today is the 3rd of November.